The Land, the Water, the Sky by Black Belt Eagle Scout. It is 12 songs, 46 minutes long. Probably the most hipster sounding name I've ever said on the fucking podcast.
King Gizzard
For
and
a
the Lizard
band.
Wizard would like a word with you.
I say that's right. It's up there with King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard or Chuck Chuck Chuck. Chuck 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 is absolutely top tier because I was so confused. I called him Surprised Pikachu Face for like several years because I didn't know how to say their name.
I was dating someone who called it Surprise Pikachu Face because of you. Anyways,
You have no idea how happy that makes me. Anyways, the land, the water, the sky. Definitely in that indie sound, like a lot of shoegaze influences throughout the record, and shoegaze is a genre I tend to like a lot. And if it's done right, it can be beautiful. Like if you do it like a slow dive sound or whatnot, it can make a really good record. And you get that with the land, the water, the sky. It's even though it's like 46 minutes, some of these songs are longer at like 5 minutes, 4 minutes, respectively, and then some of these songs end up being a little bit shorter towards the middle and the end of the record, which is interesting how it's paced. But I'm glad they do that because the first two tracks, My Blood Runs Through This Land and Sedena, those are like tried and true indie shoegazy sounds with the way the guitars are running in the background, really airy sounding vocals. And it took me a little bit to really get into it, but I ended up actually enjoying this record with how it sounds, especially the second track, Sedena. I really like how it blooms into, I wouldn't say necessarily modern sounding shoegaze, but a shoegaze that is done enough to not sound like just a blatant rip off of like 90s or the aught sound, but nothing that's going to be revolutionizing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in addition to shoegaze, I hear a lot of folk, which I think is a really interesting
Yeah,
spin
yeah,
considering
definitely.
Black Belt Eagle Scout is of indigenous background, and so usually you think of folk as a very like white dominated genre, but there are
Hmm.
actually a lot of Native Americans, First Nations folks, and people who are like of the original folks who are here
Yeah.
in the North America who also do a take on folk that adds spins of stuff that is from their heritage, from their ancestors. They like to pull into it as well, and so
Hmm.
I think you get a lot of that throughout the record as well. I have some thoughts about that more specifically in a song later through here,
Interesting.
but like I think that it's in combining the shoegaze things you mentioned, which is something I wasn't necessarily thinking about. But I would definitely add that it's within indie. It's definitely a folk inspired record as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in addition to shoegaze, but yeah, shoegaze like indigenous shoegaze folk is definitely
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, it's
this
different.
is a corner of like the music world I wasn't expecting Audioface to land on, but I really enjoyed this record. Like it's one of the better folk projects I've heard in a while too.
Oh, absolutely, because that's what like, and I was kind of getting into like it does blend folk with it as well because the first two songs, like My Blood Runs Through This Land and Sedena, are definitely like more shoegazy inspired. But then you have Salmon Stinta Blue, which then mix those two. So Salmon Stinta. This is such a trip for this is a landmine for Sean's vocabulary of how to pronounce things because I could never pronounce things correctly ever. The way I love the pacing through it because it slows it down, but it makes this really cool, beautiful sound where it like the way just the vocals and a guitar in the back and that's it. I love how that's paced after those first two tracks because you don't want to be overloaded with sound, right? And that's I think a problem that happens a lot with modern indie to where you can almost grow numb to a sound, if that makes sense. Like a lot of bedroom pop, bedroom indie can get that where it's just one tone for 40 minutes and they're like, all
Yeah.
right, after you listen to it, you just kind of get your blood warms up to it and then it just sticks there. But the way that they pace this record is fantastic because it keeps you wanting to get a little bit more. It keeps that when you get to those more folk sounds, those more shoegaze sounds, those more indie sounds, to where you appreciate them in that way. Example, then you get to Blue, the fourth track, where then that's like your more like folk inspired indie with how it sounds. And I like it because it develops and blossoms into a beautiful track by I think maybe about 2.5 minutes into it. So towards the latter end of the track, it's gorgeous. I really like how it sounds.
Yeah, I like Out of the Blue on the River is this really nice, very, again, also folk inspired sound that leads into Nobody, which is one of the bigger tracks from there, which feels even, if you like artists like Mitski or Mac DeMarco, it sounds like it's similar to that. It's just really catchy, and it takes the record into this upbeat track after
Hmm.
Nobody with Fancy Dance
Nobody,
as well.
so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and Fancy Dance, yeah, definitely gets that where it's like that more catchy sound with it. But again, this is why I love the pacing of the record because it starts off shoegazy sound, which is more faster paced, then it slows down with more folk inspired, more almost bluegrass inspired sounds. It reminds me a little bit of some early Fleet Foxes demos that I've heard um and sound, which I particularly like. I like a lot if done right. To be fair, and this is definitely done right. But I love Fancy Dance with it because it blends all three that they're trying to make in the record, and like half, like not halfway through, but towards like the latter half of the song, because it's a pretty short song. I just love how it sounds, and you get like this crescendo on it where it's just no vocals, but or like no lyrics, but it's just high pitched voice going into it with really airy on top of all the guitar and the drums in the background. It's just a sound that I grew up listening to and I really enjoy a lot.
From sounds that
Uh,
you grow up listening to sounds that sound like really tasteful and new, because like with
yep.
the other one, hey Sean, you want to go ahead and pronounce not a chance in
My
hell.
yeah, my Native American ancestors would murder me if I if I tried to say that
Your
shit.
Native American ancestors would have a war with your Spanish ancestors.
And
Anyways, so there's
there
a
are
war.
places.
There was a war in my body. Okay, anyway, so a narrow place. Yeah, I think sounds evocative of like early Japanese breakfast or biba doobie, even where you have a slower
Oh yeah.
song then evolves into a larger indie rock melody, inspired a lot by grunge, but also inspired a lot by just the unique sound of Black Belt Eagle Sound.
Mhm.
That song I really liked and was really impressed with because it builds and grows gradually and does what a lot of what Sean was saying earlier, which is incorporates sounds and genres that at their worst can sort of sound monotone, or you get lost in it, but not in a way that there's, it's like a shallow pool, so to speak.
Mhm.
It's like a very wide, shallow ocean, river, lake, whatever. But
Yep.
this song has depth to it because it's
Yeah.
doing all of those genres without like going overboard with either of those sounds. Shoegaze, indie, folk, grunge rock. Like, it's great execution.
And then you get towards the end of the record and you get my favorite track on the record, which is Spaces. Oh my
That's a good
god,
one.
it is incredible with how it's not like anything else that people make in indie. It's a slower, like shoegazy-ish sound, but they blend it with Native American sounds. And it's amazing with how like indigenous sounds with how it is like it bellows into this chant in the middle and the end of the song that's just not like anything that you'll ever hear anywhere else with, and it even has like this really beautiful guitar in the background that's almost surf rock inspired with how it sounds too. That's just, it's incredible. Like that one, I get goosebumps of whenever I listen to it. And the first time I listened to it, I was like, "Whoa!" Blown away by it. Especially putting that's the second to last song is incredible.
Yeah. Um, it's all just a very, very
Mm.
powerful kind of project.
Yep. And then the
And
last track, "Don't Give Up," is just beautiful indie alt rock,
yeah,
pretty much, just to sum it up. And like it really ends the record well with how it is. But this is one of my more favorite indie records that I've heard in a long time. Again, this is why I can't wait to talk about our state of the music industry coming up in the next couple months, our annual discussion that we have, because this to me is what indie is supposed to be.
yeah,
Somebody like really, I wouldn't say super obscure, but lesser known, and is really making something that nobody else makes, right? Like testing different genres, testing different sounds that no one else really uses, and staying true to themselves as artists. trying to bring out on different sounds, different ideas into a project that's cohesive, but it's different, right? It's very, very different sounding, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I am excited to do that conversation. Also, I found the actual like peoples. It's the Swinomish and Inupiat peoples from like Portland, Oregon. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
a lot of this record is kind of meant to be a homecoming for Black Belt Eagle Scout and kind of tapping into that part of her heritage, and then yeah, also incorporating really great modern sounds in a lot of parts of music. And yeah, as I've said already, the execution is phenomenal, and as you said, it bodes well for what happens when you combine music from a lot of different inspirations and incorporate new things, especially things that are close to you and your own execution. And you get stuff that pushes these genres forward when they usually need to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm gonna recommend this record to a lot of people who like indie music, as it's just fantastic, really, really good.
And you should too, just like you should recommend this video and the arbitrary scale that we use every single week on Audioface, because our review is our review. We're not going to give it a ranking like a letter or a number, because then you'll just compare it to something else and it's not going to be good for anyone. But this week, the arbitrary scale, the rotating arbitrary scale, is pizza chains that you would buy for a big game, or pizza from chains that you would buy from a big game. This is going to be like a local pizza chain that does both thin crust and deep dish.
Ooh, now we're talking. This is shit. What would this be? Because I already used shit. This is, you know what? Here we go. This is what it is. This is all right. So you're at the party with your homies, right? Somebody brings over Domino's. But you look at that and you're like, get that cardboard shit out of here. You throw it down the garbage and you have some homemade pizza that you're making yourself, because you have a pizza oven in your backyard that you're cooking out. And then everybody over there is like, oh my God. And that one guy who brought the Domino's tries to make one pizza and burns it.
Sean, burning garbage in your backyard is not a pizza oven. This isn't the 50s. Second of all, don't be hating on Domino's, man. It is.
Domino's isn't half bad. Domino's isn't half bad.
Especially when they upgraded their crust in like the late aughts or like early 10s to have that garlic on the bottom. Yeah. To be a little bit more New York style. Definitely a better move. You actually can get New York style pizza from Domino's there, and it's, not half bad, but definitely their tried and true garlic crust is the best. And when no one can decide what pizza to get and everyone wants pizza and they're rowdy and they're drunk, just Domino's solves problems. Domino's, we fix marriages.
Get some get those square thin crust ones from Domino's. Goes hard.
One company needs to be ballsy enough, like Little Caesars, we fix marriages.
I'm down. Little Caesars trying to make a comeback. They're trying to. Apparently, they redid their recipes and stuff. I'm going to find out in a little while. We report, you decide.
In order to test that for sure, it's not like, there's a new Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. Oh, by the way, there's that Chick-fil-A cauliflower sandwich, which I don't know. Is there a mulligan on anti-gay Chick-fil-A things? I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
I don't know.
But it's not like, it's a Chick-fil-A, I'm going to try to go to like the best Chick-fil-A possible. No, this is like, Church's got the new recipe. Let's see what it's like in the hood. Because if it's good in the hood, then it's a good recipe. If it's good at like their flagship, this is the new one with like the flat panels and the floor-to-ceiling glass. No, we can't trust it.
No, it needs to say on the outside, we accept EBT. Now, if you go to one that says we accept EBT and it slaps, that means it's good.
It needs to have 3 colors of paint on the wall based on the different times the graffiti's been covered up, but they didn't have that exact color of paint at the nearby Home Depot. That's the kind of place you need to go to make sure it's good.
I've been to Pizza Huts that have definitely done that.
It's not what chain wouldn't have that?
What chain wouldn't have? Gelson's?
Chick-fil-A. Well, okay, come on, fast food.
Oh, I thought you said grocery. Oh, okay, fast food. I say Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
I say Chick-fil-A wouldn't.
Is there a pizza place that wouldn't do that? Biology, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Because mod, they don't care.
No, I
Lays,
Mod
they don't
definitely
care.
don't give a shit.
They don't
No,
care.
but I say biology has a little nose up in the air, you know.
Nose up in the air, on the desk, either or. Anyways, this has been Audio Face. What does it mean? What does it mean
That's
to
so sneaky. What does it mean to play us off?